Yes, hello and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League, live from the BackChat studios, whether you're watching on the BackChat YouTube channel or on any podcast service that is available. We've also got socials in operation, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Give us a big thumbs up, we really do appreciate it. We're hot off the heels of round 11 and we're here to review it all with you today. Paul Persick with you, along with a doyen of WA football media, and it's glad to be joined in the studio by John Townsend. John, welcome along today.
Thanks very much, Paul. It's a dream come true to come on a podcast with you.
Fantastic stuff. Really appreciate it. What a weekend it has been in the world of WAFL football. And one story that I really think everyone can agree on, East Perth, they have well and truly arrived.
Yes, they have. It's the Foreign Legion, 14 imported players in their club. They've actually built from where they were as an aligned club a few years ago. They've built really strongly to where they are, and they've got great balance, great midfield. Backlines emerging, got some forward line options. They've lost Scott Jones, obviously, probably for the year with the broken leg, but young Jed Edwards has come in, made a pretty good fist of it so far. They look as though they're clearly one of the main contenders.
They certainly are. And Ross McQueen, he's gotten a lot out of those players this season.
Well, he's won 6 flags already at Claremont at Colts and reserves level. He's a proven coach. He knows what buttons to push to get players to perform well at the end of the year. And he's been one of the best stories of the year, obviously. The impact that he's had, very, very straightforward. No rocket science, I don't think, with Ross. It's very, know your job, do your job, prepare to do your job. He prepares well as a coach, and his team's flying at the moment.
His attention to detail is just fantastic as a coach. Second place they are after 11 rounds of football. In just a little bit, we'll have Jarvis Pina from another improving club, Swan Districts. They had a big win over West Perth on Sunday. We'll also review all the games in round 11 and also the Around the WAFL Player of the Year votes. By the way, all the games in round 12 this weekend are available live, free and in full on the AFL app. This is Around the WAFL. John Townsend alongside Paul Persick. Of course, Swan Districts, as we said, John, just now, big win over the reigning premiers in Joondalup, and one of their key contributors has been a real big rising star. Has made a name for himself at Swan Districts this year, Jarvis Pina. He's good enough to join us on the show. Jarvis, welcome along to Around the WAFL, mate.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Going well, great to have you on the show. Jarvis, what a win it was over there at Joondalup. Often a hard place to win. Must have been a real big thrill to get the 4 points over there.
Yeah, it was a big win. I've personally never won there before, so it's always a tough ask, as you said, going up to Joondalup and beating them up there, especially when they've got a bit of extra incentive with Blackie's 250th. So, yeah, no, it was massive. It meant a lot to us, and no, it was good.
Jarvis, John Townsend here. Congratulations on your game. It's the best game I've seen you play. Where do you rate it amongst the performances that you've had over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I just feel like I've just sort of been building the last few weeks. I think it was a good game for me. But yeah, I'm just trying to build off sort of last year, and I just want to sort of become the most consistent WAFL footballer I can. And no, that's a good step forward, and it's just been positive to sort of string some consistent footy together this year.
You amassed another 30 possessions in that game against West Perth, but you've also been able to fit into what is an already well-established Swans backline, and your responsibility, has it been raised up a little bit, especially since Brandon Urseg is out for likely the year with a foot injury?
Yeah, we've had a few boys go down there, so I think I swung back in round 5 or round 6 maybe, and haven't really looked back since. It's a good backline to be with, obviously with Noddy and the other likes, so no, it's a good place to be in, and it's also good for me when I can run off and sort of create and know that they're going to sort of have my back and look after my man until I can get back onto him. So, no, it's good. It's good having that trust as a back six.
You had a lot of very tight losses in the first half of the season. You seem to have overcome that now. You're back in the winning circle. What's Andrew Pruitt's message to you been as coach about those tight losses?
Yeah, so it has been quite frustrating. We obviously lost probably, I think it was 5 under a goal. So I think it was just more that we don't really want to stand for that. We just sort of worked out that late in games we just sort of get a bit flustered and just start to panic a little bit. So it's just been at training, just going through some scenario modes and just knowing what to do when we get, whether we're down or whether we're up. Just knowing how to overcome that and sort of tackle it. But yeah, it was good, especially last quarter. I think it was quite a mature response from us. How we were able to just sort of chip it around for 5 to 10 minutes, and to be honest, sort of didn't really give West Perth a chance to get the footy back. So no, there's obviously some positive signs there, which it's been good.
Now, you've got the bye this week, but then a big game on July 8th in round 13 against East Perth, who you met back in round 1 and lost by a point. Are you expecting another hard-fought contest against a rapidly improving Royals?
Yeah, they're going well. They got a pretty good list. Their midfield's obviously up and firing, so yeah, it'll be a great game. It'll be good to have the bye to sort of refresh, but yeah, we just want to keep challenging and keep rocking up because, as you said, as everyone knows, it's a pretty tight comp and most teams can beat anyone on the day, so who knows, we can sort of jag a couple in the row, if anything. So yeah, definitely we're pumped up and ready to face them.
What does your team do best, Jarvis?
I think that when we can get the footy on the outside and when we can go, that's when we look at our best. We have some really good runners and speed on the outside. So when we do have the likes of Tony North and Brendan Erceg down there marking it, so when they can catch and we can sort of peel off and go from there and get the ball into fast sort of tempo, that's when we look the best. But yeah, and obviously I think that across the board we have a pretty good marking list. So it's good to have forwards that you can trust, and if you go to a contest or if you go down the line, they're usually going to give you a contest or mark it. So it's probably the best side in terms of that aspect that I've ever played in. I think they're probably our two major strengths, I think.
Jarvis, great game from you and the Swans on Sunday. Really appreciate your time. Have a great week off and all the best for the game against East Perth on the 8th of July.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy.
That was Jarvis Pina from the Swan Districts Football Club. As you said, John, and you're absolutely spot on. Great game. He had one of his best of the season. He's just getting better.
Yeah, and he's got pace, and that's a point of difference that Swans have got. They exposed West Perth on Sunday with their pace. That was one of the real standouts. I thought that they cut through the middle a fair bit. It was a pretty flat West Perth side. You sometimes wonder whether the emotion of a celebration for a big player's milestone, whether that sometimes overwhelms players. They certainly did look flat. They didn't look as though they were up for the game in a lot of ways. But the Swans' pace was the thing that really stood out, I think, and that's going to give them a real weapon for the rest of the season. I'm not sure if they're going to make finals, but they can certainly be a destructor, I suppose, as they against the other sides that are competing for spots in the top 5.
We'll talk more about that in just a little bit when we review all the 3 games. Just a reminder, all games this weekend, round 12, we've got 3 this weekend, are live, free and in full on the AFL app. This is Around the Waffle. John Townsend alongside Paul Persick. Let's begin the round 11 action, JT. I'm just getting mixed up with my initials here. JT, on Saturday, of course, you were there calling the game on the AFL app. Claremont, no surprise, too good over the West Coast Eagles. Across the board, Claremont, they are looking the superior side this year. Oh,
well, they came off the grand final last season. They've picked up a couple of former AFL players in Maybaum and Miles, who've strengthened their backline. Jai Bolton, I think, is the best player in the competition. He's on track for a third Sandover medal, potentially. And they haven't had Ben Edwards and Bailey Rogers, 2 state midfielders, and Rogers obviously another Sandover medalist. So they're a very solid side. They're in the top of the ladder for a reason. They'll be there at the end of the year. They're a genuine contender to win the premiership. They're first in what will be 11 seasons. And they did the job against a pretty ordinary West Coast side. I mean, it's very disappointing for what's happened in West Australian football with that West Coast side. 3 listed players. There's a lot of players who are trying their best, but their best isn't at the level to impact against other sides. I think what we might see, though, and from Claremont's point of view, it was fortunate that they played them early in the second round. I think as you see senior Eagles players coming back, their WAFL side may well get better, and the 100-point losses may convert into maybe 50 or 60 or whatever, which are going to have a significant impact on the percentage of those sides playing them in the last couple of months of the season. So anyway, that's something to play out as we go along. Disappointing where they're at, but Claremont are going along very nicely.
Which of those players in particular, you mentioned there were a couple of players from the West Coast side that are playing some good footy but not at their best. Who are you thinking in particular at the moment, some of the best but just need a little bit more lift?
Oh, well, they're just not good enough. I mean, they're fringe, they're amateur players and reserves players. So they're trying, they're doing whatever they can do, but the talent level doesn't allow them to compete. So, you're looking at some of those top-up players who were playing amateur football a month ago. Tyler Moritz, for example, came out of the amateurs about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So he's competing with former AFL or recently listed AFL players. So that's no knock on him as a person or a player, but he's just not at the level that you need to be competitive at WAFL level, which is it's a very tight competition. It's a strong competition. The best thing that happens in the WAFL is what happens between 2 and 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon when the footy is so good. And unfortunately for West Coast, that because of their situation with their player list, the top-ups aren't at the level of the teams that they're playing against, and that's why they're getting beaten by an average of 100 points a week.
Well, on the other side of the coin, Claremont, they just continue to keep on rolling, and they had a debutant, JT, in that game, in Max Mummy. He had 12 possessions and also kicked his first league goal.
Yes, his grandfather Les is a Claremont Premiership captain, 1964, and their small forwards were very potent. Smallwood, Mainwaring, DeLacy, and Max Mummy, and there's another one too, who they were all on the board in the first 15 or 20 minutes of the game. So they went small. There was rain expected. Didn't have much rain, but it was a pretty slippery situation at Revo Fitness Stadium, former Claremont Oval. They went small in their forward line. They were awarded. They were all in the game. And Max Mummy was the fifth one to come in, kicked his first goal, had a great celebration, and great for the family too, to maintain that family link over 3 generations of players at the Tigers.
Absolutely fantastic. Congratulations to Max on his debut. Taylor DeLacy as well up forward. His impact is just getting better and better. 4 goals from 11 kicks. I like the way he's going up forward.
He's the only player to kick consecutive goals in the last 7 weeks in the WAFL. He's been one of the WAFL stories of the year, hasn't he? Leading their goal kicking, 22 goals for the season. I think he's third in the chase for the Bernie Naylor. Got a couple of big forwards ahead of him, so he may not knock them off. But his emergence and his ability to convert what was a flashy sort of junior career into a very steady, solid, important and impressive league career has been one of the reasons why Claremont are on top of the ladder.
Hey, they've been fantastic everywhere up the ground. Speaking of fantastic up the ground, East Perth, what about them? 110-point winners over Perth. I was at this game on Sunday and they just didn't take their foot off the gas at any stage, East Perth. That's why they're in second place.
Well, there's competition for positions within the side. You look at their midfield, Shoemaker, Brayshaw, Crowden. They had Scott Jones there, all state players. Highly talented players, driven players too. This is a club that's been, that's had trauma for the last decade through its alignment and then coming out of the alignment, trying to get back onto the, back being a competitive team. And so, you can understand that there's a fair bit of emotion within the club, and now it's starting to come out because this team is playing so well together. Their backline is solid. McCready's really added something to them. Taylor North's been good. Tom North's been good. Corey Watts has been really good, and you've got 3 of the best kicks in the competition in Wilcox, Wright and Masando. They're really doing a job as rebounding defenders for East Perth. And their forward line, which is quite young, but is very impressive as well. They're a well-balanced side, and they're going to give it a real shake this year.
Yeah, they certainly are. East Perth, I mean, their intensity around the ball as well, and at the contest, they just didn't seem to simmer in that intensity around the ball, especially when you have the likes of Hamish Brayshaw, who had another great game as well, 38 touches and 10 marks. Kai Wilcox and Jacob Mazzando, and you're spot on there, their rebound defending ability is really going to catch a lot of the top teams off guard later down the track.
Yeah, well, they're piercing kicks. They cover ground and then they hit their targets. And as we see, I mean, we're talking about Nick Dacos, one of the best players in Australian football at the moment. One of his standout features is his ability to pick the right target and hit that target. And these players are doing the same thing. Wright's perhaps the best kick in the competition. I know he says that Mitch Crowden is the best kick in the competition. Masando's not far off as well. Their efficiency with the ball is one of their standouts, and that's why they are where they are.
And the efficiency was another worry for Perth on the other side of the coin. I mean, despite the efforts of Charlie Thompson and Reagan Clark, they each amassed 20-plus possessions. And, even though they charged back into that first quarter, they were only 2 goals behind. They just couldn't really get it going. And, it is going to take time. They're under a new coach, and they've got a lot of new people involved at the Perth Football Club. And for Perth, it was another disappointing showing, I'm afraid.
Oh, well, if you lose by 20 goals, it's very disappointing. I mean, they've had high expectations under Peter German, who's a dual premiership coach in the WAFL, and he's been involved at AFL and VFL level as well. He's a credentialed coach who's building from rock bottom. Now, we know that's going to take time and it's going to be patchy. Their best this year has been very competitive. Their worst has been uncompetitive, and we saw that on the weekend for long periods. they've just got to stay the course. That's pretty simple for as far as Perth go. They've made the call to appoint German for 3 years. He's having a look at players at the moment. I'm sure they'll turn over more players and then look to recruit more strategically, perhaps to fill various holes. They got hurt when Jaden Hunter went. He only played a couple of games. He looked a real standout figure for the Demons. He's got picked up in the draft and won't play again this year, so that's unfortunate. They need some A-grade quality. That's one of their issues. They haven't got enough A-graders to really, compete at the highest level, but that will come with time.
I reckon Charlie Thompson could be one of those that is going to build up to an A-quality player. I mean, coming over from Coburg in the VFL, 23 touches, he's been one of Perth's best all season thus far.
Oh, he's probably been their best player. He might win their fairest and best, the Butcher medal. He just finds the footy. You need that. You need players who can find it, and then you need players who can create as well, back and in front. So look, we know where they're at. They're coming back from they've had years and decades of mediocrity. For them to get out of it, it's going to take time. But I think they've got the building blocks to do it. You just need to have patience and to stay the course with German leading the way.
Let's go to the final game on the Sunday, JT, over in Joondalup Pentanet Stadium. West Perth hasn't been a happy hunting ground for them this season, and Swan Districts showed them how. 15-point winners, 11-6 to 8-9. Does this put the Swans season back on track?
Well, they're not going to play finals because too far out. They've got to win every game from here on, and I don't think they will because they play the top 4. But what they have done is shown that they've got a direction for the future. So they've come in with a new coach as well, same as Perth. Andrew Pruin, the coach there, very strong on doing the basics right. Get yourself fit, play your role, do what's needed to be done. So it's a pretty basic sort of game plan. I think they're too far back. They're 7th. They're 2 games out and percentage out of the top 5. So I'm not sure that they're going to. Well, I'm pretty confident they won't make finals. But what they can do is disrupt what other teams are doing, and show that they've got something for next year and beyond.
You made a good point earlier. West Perth, they looked pretty flat all afternoon. They didn't have the pace to counter what Swan Districts were able to muster all throughout the day. Maybe it would have been the occasion of Aaron Black's 250th game. Maybe it would have been overwhelming, but also just their lack of desire at their home ground at the moment. Usually, you have to win your games, not just away, but also at home to make the finals. That's, I believe, their 4th or 5th loss at home this season. Yeah,
the premiership hangover has left them with a massive headache. They haven't been able to get back on track at all. They flattered a little bit early. They had the very big win over West Coast, 169 points. But since then, a lot of those players who won the flag last year haven't produced at the same level. And maybe it's a matter of hunger. Maybe it's a matter of just a lack of focus. I'm not too sure. Their personnel is not dissimilar to what they had last year. Anton Hamp went out, won the flag for a very good organiser in their forward line. Yeah. So they've lost his seniority, but they haven't lost a lot in the way of personnel. They had about 14 premiership players on Sunday, and they were poor. It's been a poor year for them. They'll reset, obviously. I think they realise that this year is probably gone. They may not make finals, and if they did make finals, they're probably not going to challenge for the flag. There's a lot of, I guess, contentment at the club in some sense that they won last year, so they're happy with that. This is a lay year for them. I think they're starting to think, which is not a great attitude, but it's a recognition that they went to the top of the mountain last year and aren't able to do it again this year. I think there's a lot of focus already turning to next season.
Turn to 2024 maybe for West Perth. The problem is now they've got the bye, and then they've got East Fremantle at home as well, who are inside the 5 and looking to get back in touch with the top 3.
Well, I think that in their next 4 games after their bye, they play the top 4, except for Subiaco, who they played last week. So, very tough challenge for them. They do play East Perth late in the season. That could well be...
Last round.
The last round. That could be a game that East Perth potentially competing for top spot. As I said, I don't think West Perth are going to make finals, but they may be up and about for that game to get over their arch enemy and have an impact on East Perth. So little things they'll be looking at. I'm sure they'll blood some more players. They had a couple of debutants on Sunday. I'm sure they'll be looking at more young players to have a look at for next season. Yes, they came into the year with high expectations, haven't delivered. now it's time for next year.
Let's go to the ladder after round 11. Claremont on top. In fact, they're equal on 32 points with East Perth and Subiaco. The Royals with second place on percentage. Then the Lions, Peel Thunder and East Fremantle. And then in the bottom half, it is West Perth, Swan Districts, South Fremantle, Perth and the West Coast Eagles. This is Around the Waffle, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. All right, John, let's get into the votes. The player of the year for round 11. One vote, Hamish Brayshaw of East Perth. Just getting better this season. He's been one of East Perth's best in what is an AFL calibre midfield.
He just keeps trundling on, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He goes at the same pace from start to finish of the game, and from the back pocket to the forward pocket. He just keeps delivering. He's been a very, very solid player for East Perth and for WA.
Certainly has been, and deservedly a great selection in the state team. 2 votes goes to Braden Noble of Swan Districts. Great game he had further up the ground. He was a valuable option for Swan Districts inside 53 goals from 15 kicks, and really caught the West Perth backline off guard.
Oh, well, he kicked, I think, the first goal and the last goal of the game. Provided a target. Chris Jones had gone out with a hamstring, and he'd been moved into the backline the week earlier too. So Noble had a big responsibility. He's been a very steady waffle player throughout his career. He's a bit understated. Good to see he's being recognised for his effort.
And another player that I reckon is just climbing up the ranks is Tia Miles. He gets 3 votes from Claremont, 35 touches, 10 marks and 6 tackles as well. It's a great season he's having over there.
He's one of their main distributors. He plays that drop-off role at half-back or in the back pocket. He did it in the state game as well. Played a handful of games at Hawthorn. Great history at the club too. His dad, Jeff, was a premiership player at Claremont between a solid VFL and AFL career. And Taya Miles is having a very good impact for the club.
Another great distributor in the WAFL is Mitch Crowden. He gets the 4 votes as well. His steady ball use was fantastic. Also kicked 3 goals, and his versatility in midfield and up forward is really paying off for East Perth.
Well, Stan Wright says he's the best kick in the competition, and what he has got, he's got depth in his kicking, and he's also got the finesse to be that 30-metre kick inside 50 to find a target from coming out of the midfield. He's another understated player in some way. Played as a small forward at Fremantle. I think he's now found his natural position as a ball hunting mid, and there's no surprise that East Perth are flying because of the impact that he's having.
And now the Around the Waffle top gun of round 11 from Swan Districts. In fact, it's the second time that he's got the plaudit this year. It's Jarvis Pina. I mean, we said earlier, he at the moment is one of the best in the competition this season, and it was one of his best games. 30 possessions, 12 marks, and also 5 tackles as well. His distribution in midfield, fantastic in that win over West Perth.
Well, the most impressive thing I found watching the game was his willingness to work so far back into defence to provide support, and then get forward as well, as you see with the great wingman. That's their role. They've got to play a sweeping role, but they've also got to work deep, back and forward to provide outlets and options and support, and he did that. He's well deserving of it. I thought he was comfortably best on ground. He had a significant impact on their win, and if he continues to go along like that, Swan Districts are going to cause some pain for other clubs.
Where does that leave the leaderboard after 11 rounds? Well, Jai Bolton still leads on 11 votes and 2 tied on 10. Zach Clark of Subiaco and Jarvis Pina now catapults into that top 3 on 10 votes as well. And rounding out the top 6 is Milan Murdoch of East Fremantle and also Tom North and Angus Schumacher of East Perth. And over 40 players, John, have polled in the votes as well. Now, as our regular co-host Taylor Capper always said, if you want to poll, you've got to be winning your games as well. That does it for today's edition of Around the Waffle. John, really appreciate your time. It's been great sitting in the chair with you, mate, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you, Paul. As I said, it's a dream come true to come on with you on your podcast, and looking forward to seeing you at the Waffle, Paul.
Thanks, mate. And thanks to all our viewers and listeners for tuning in to today's episode of Around the Waffle, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. We look forward to your company on Thursday when we preview a big round 12. We'll see you then.